Good evening. Welcome to Live United. Tonight we have an opportunity to really highlight volunteer opportunities. As you know, Live United is all about how people are giving, how they're advocating, how they're volunteering across the Monadnock region to make a difference in the lives of our citizens. Today I'm joined by Todd Craig. Todd joins us from the TIMKEN company, and thank you for being with us, Todd.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I got to know you about a year ago, Todd, through the allocations process that the United Way does. And give us a little history of how you got involved with the United Way and why you got involved with the United Way.
Okay. First of all, I'm a recent transplant to New England about 3 years ago, coming from Ohio. And I participated both as a donor and as running campaigns for my employer with the different campaigns out there in Southeast Michigan, Southwest Ohio. And so when I came out here, it was just kind of natural for me when TIMKEN ran their yearly campaign that I would, of course, donate through them. As part of, I guess, that process with TIMKEN, I was asked to be a loaned employee. And so I did that I guess maybe it'd be 2 years ago now. I was a loaned employee. And then through that process, I was asked to join the allocations committee last year.
And I got to know you through the allocations process. But maybe you can talk a little bit about what it meant to be a loaned employee, because I think there's a lot of mystery that surrounds some of the different volunteer opportunities, you know, at the United Way or with our agencies that
Sure.
we partner with. So can you talk a little bit about what a loaned employee is and what your role was and what it felt like to be involved with something like that?
Sure. As a loaned employee, I guess I'm kind of an account executive. In other words, I had, I think, 11 different businesses that I would help to run their campaigns for that year, and I provide whatever support they need. I would go in and give presentations. I would arrange speakers from some of the agencies to come in and help with their campaign, pick up material, drop off material, just anything that they would need from a support standpoint from the United Way. That was my role. Some companies want a lot of support, others don't want so much support, but I'm always there to be their contact and kind of the liaison between the United Way and the individual business.
So an important role, you know, I think probably the public hears about the campaigns that go on. A lot of those take place in the workplace. And in fact, TIMKEN runs a workplace
Yes.
campaign. What happens during a workplace campaign? Because I think, again, you know, that for some people, they know that they're donating, but may not know what they're really giving to, and again, how they can be involved with that.
Sure, and that's kind of the role of the campaign chair and myself as a loaned employee, that we try to convey that information to everybody that's involved in the campaign. I've seen campaigns that are not very involved as far as employee activism at all, and others that are extremely involved. For example, at TIMKEN, we have our company picnic every summer, and we always have a United Way kickoff event, kind of a warm-up that we do. Just to get everybody aware that the United Way campaign is going to be coming in another month, and to let them know what the theme is and what we're going to be looking at as far as our goals internally. And this year what we did was not a pentathlon, but a triathlon, I guess, a three-event, kind of an Olympic thing that was geared towards our company. We assemble our bearings in a clean room. So one of the events was you had to put on all your clean room garb and then take it off in the fastest time. And the other one, since we make ball bearings, we had a ball bearing shot put event. And then we also had a tricycle race that was pretty funny, and we had people make donations to the United Way in the form of a cash vote for the person in the plant, typically the plant manager on down, to be the participants in the tricycle race, and it's always a hoot. And the nice thing about that is we're able to also donate the tricycle to one of the agencies that can use it.
Oh, that's
So
such
we
a
kind
great
of,
activity.
yeah, we kind of get a double dip on that one.
Uh-huh.
It's really fun.
So who won?
Actually, Rob Brown won. He didn't take first place in any of the events, any single event, but he was consistently number 2 all the way through.
So he was the overall champ.
He was the overall champ. We got him a nice big gold Olympic medal and everything.
You know, one of the things I love about watching the workplace campaigns is how much fun people have with them.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have fun.
And I'm sure as a loaned employee, you really had an opportunity to see that in multiple agencies.
I did.
How people were kicking off, how people sustain that. We see some amazing things. What are some other activities Timken's done over the years to really support the campaign?
We'll have bake sales. We have a chili cook-off. We kind of run a variation on that too, where it's just like a new recipe cook-off, where people can just come at lunchtime and sample different dishes that people make, and we usually tie some sort of a raffle off to each one of those. And then of course we have daily raffles, weekly raffles. We're fortunate that through some of our corporate channels, we were able to give away a pair of Patriots tickets this year. That was kind of the big prize, and we gave away a plane ride from Monadnock Aviation over Keene. You know, it's a sightseeing tour, and that was new for this year, and it was a very big hit.
Nice rewards for doing something good.
Absolutely.
And so you've been in the role of the loaned employee. You've been part of a workplace campaign at Timken. And I met you through the allocations process. And we hear a lot of questions about what is this allocations process and what is the role of the volunteers in that? Can you address that a little bit?
Certainly. Again, in the allocations role, we're kind of auditors. We actually go in and really get into the back pocket of each of the agencies. They have to submit financial documentation, tax filing documentation, business plan documentation, goals, and we're insisting that those goals are quantifiable, measurable. It's very intense. In fact, I had the director of one of the agencies say to me, and she is primarily funded as a government agency, she actually said that, you know, you folks scrutinize my business more than the government does. It's amazing. So we're very thorough in going over and looking at all aspects of their agency, of the business that they're running, who they intend to help, how many people they intend to help, and at what levels. We also go over their qualifications for someone to be eligible to take advantage of their services. So it's a very thorough process. It involves a lot of document review by the allocations people. It involves a site visit or multiple site visits, but at least one site visit to each agency, which usually includes a tour, a presentation. The presentation is by typically the director. There's board members there, and then we talk to other folks within the agency too. But really, at those times, there's no holds barred. Every question that you can think of is kind of asked and answered at that time. It's a very thorough process. I mean, this was my first year on allocations, and we had planned for an hour at each site visit. I don't think we wrapped one up in under an hour and a half. And there was also an additional half hour of preparation time before we actually went to the agency. We met as our little subcommittee and kind of planned our visit and went over everything. So it's a very thorough process. It's one thing that makes me feel good about my donation to the United Way is I know that every one of those dollars that I donate is going directly to people that need it, and the agencies are very frugal at how they spend that donation.
You really get to see kind of the other side of things. And, you know, we as staff members at the United Way get to see that. Interestingly enough, we don't have a role in the allocations process and the decision-making that goes on there.
Right.
Our job is to assist the agencies in making sure they get their proposals in, and that those proposals have the information in them that's needed, and to provide training for our agencies around how to do that and some of the best practices out there, and really how to make them quantifiable. And we've been doing a lot of work over the last year, and we'll continue to work with them on that. It's kind of a new process that many of these agencies are going through. We've made changes to the allocations process. I think you experienced that it's an all electronic system now.
Correct.
And I'm guessing that we probably have viewers out there who remember the days where, you know, the 50 programs that are funded bring in a box full of, 22 different proposals for to go out to people to be reviewed. And the whole system is electronic now, which we hope has simplified the ability of the
I think so.
the
It was very easy to
allocators.
use and navigate around. But that you just made me think of a good point that probably most people don't know, that we on the allocations committee, we're not necessarily the United Way agency. We are the citizens of the community who are looking at the needs of the community and the people that provide those needs in our stated task to divide up the funding for the following year. So that's very important that, you know, it's the community people taking care of people in the community.
You know, it's one of the things that I certainly value when I think about stewardship of donations and the donors' dollars. You mentioned that, you know, you feel responsible for making sure those are invested and invested well. And it's such a unique role and opportunity for people to volunteer for. What are some of the things you feel like you've gained as part of volunteering?
I have to tell you that my experience with Monadnock United Way is one of the top 2 most rewarding things I've ever done, without question. And I can't choose between which is 1, which is 2. Number 1, I happen to be the chairman of the school board for a while of a preschool at my church back in Ohio that my father had actually started. So that was very rewarding for me as well, and I got to do it when my children were in the school. But the Monadnock United Way is, you know, like I said, I can't choose. Those are the top 2 most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. Very fulfilling with Monadnock United Way, not just from a financial standpoint to see that the dollars are all spent very well, but from the level of services that are needed, and the services that are delivered by all the different agencies. One of the things when I was a loaned employee, we toured half a dozen agencies in the north part of Keene, and I remember thinking to myself as I was going around on that tour that, you know, I could, if I had $1 million in my pocket, I could very easily spend it just in this small area because the needs are there, and they're being met very well and in a cost-effective fashion, but it would just be so easy to spend that kind of money, and that's one thing that I like about the United Way is I don't have $1 million, but me as an individual donor combined with everybody else, we do, and that's how I as an individual can have the biggest, I think, single impact on the most number of needs in the community.
And I think that people may not know that this year 50 different programs are being funded through the campaign dollars that are currently being raised. We know that the campaigns become more and more challenging to raise those dollars and be able to support both the needs of the community and the agencies that are addressing those needs. You know, so we certainly encourage people to give where they can, to be that donor that links with those other donors, because $1 a week can make a tremendous difference in the lives of individuals out in our communities.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that I learned, not just as a loaned employee, but on allocations, is that these agencies exist on the people that just give $1 a week. That's the bread and butter of the funding for these operations.
And that's very true. Many of them are dependent on it. And, we think about, that cup of coffee or that cup of tea that you may have in the morning. And sometimes that sacrifice alone can make the difference in lives of multiple people, whether it's scholarships for children, to be able to go to a qualified preschool, all the way up to people that may have addictions and need those kinds of services, mental health issues. And that would be the other thing. What's the scope of service that you see being supported out there?
Geez, it's everything from, say, basic physical needs, housing, Cheshire Housing Trust, the Keene Kitchen, so housing, nutrition, there's health services, legal services,
Child
if
care.
it's a human need, I think we address it.
And that's really important for people to be aware of, I think, that the dollars that come in and the decisions being made by those allocations are all wrapped around human service needs. They're all things that are directly affecting the livelihood and the well-being of our citizens.
Yes.
And as we've gone through the last couple of years, we've begun to see that there's some areas that we really need to focus on. Those basic needs that you mentioned: food, shelter, transportation for people. Making sure that people's mental health and substance abuse needs are addressed, and that our youth have an opportunity to grow and learn and become thriving citizens in the future. So all important things. It can't be done without the volunteers. And I think one of the things that, we have 6 staff over at the United Way, not all full-time. We live and breathe by our volunteers. The role that you take on as an allocator or a loaned employee is what makes a difference. It makes a difference in what is able to be raised out in the community, and then what services can then be delivered. Have you volunteered for any of the other agencies as part of Days of Caring, or been out there working in a volunteer role?
Absolutely. We do the Days of Caring, but one thing that's also come from my involvement in the United Way and through the I guess the emphasis from TIMKEN, from my employer, is that I volunteer at the Keene Kitchen, Community Kitchen, not just with my employer, but with my wife's employer as well. And because of my association, I was able to get her company to take a day a month, as we do, and send their folks to help out at the kitchen as well. So that was, not that I twisted her arm, but that was kind of a nice little synergy that we had, because she came and volunteered with me. She was able to see what the kitchen's all about and took that back to her company, and now they do it.
It's interesting because when I think about volunteerism, lots of times people think, I don't have time, I can't afford to give. But there's so many ways we can give.
I can tell you that, number one, the time commitment for volunteering can be as small or as large as you want it to be. There are so many different opportunities and different agencies that need help that whatever you think you might like to do, you can do. And at the same time, from a dollar perspective, I give at the leadership level, have for some time. But to be honest with you, once you make that commitment, you don't miss it. It's not like I have to sacrifice something else to make my donation to the United Way. You make the commitment initially when you fill out that pledge card, but it's once that's done, it's I don't want to say it's invisible, because I do like to be conscious of what my donations are, but it just happens. And one of the little shticks that I used in my campaign that I ran was to tell everybody that, remember, you reach in here, but it comes from here. And when it comes from here, you don't even think of reaching in here anymore.
I think that's such a great message for people. And I think, some of it's about time, but some of it is about the reward that you talked about.
Absolutely.
The feeling that you have and that heartfelt feeling that you're left with, whether it's through the giving or the volunteering that you may be doing or advocacy for these organizations. I'm wondering if you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share with the public, really about volunteering and being a part of things in our communities.
I would certainly urge everyone to, in some way, shape, or form, involve themselves in Monadnock Area United Way. As I said, it is the easiest way for a single individual to have an impact on the greatest number of agencies, but on the greatest number of needs. Just think of yourself as a small pebble being thrown into a pond, and that ripple effect is just tremendous. And that's one of the great things about the Keene community. Whether it's the United Way per se, whether it's the community kitchen, whether it's one of the other United Way agencies, Keene is a very good community for supporting itself. And I want to be a part of that. I'm sure most people probably do as well.
And I think that's very true of the whole Monadnock region. One of the things I've loved about working here is that you really see how much people care about each of the communities that are here. What's so nice for me to see is the role our agencies take on. They may be based in Keene, but they're serving the whole Monadnock region. When I look at the numbers of communities being served by these organizations, whether it's Southwestern Community Services or home health care, the River Center, they are reaching 36, 38, 40 communities across the region, and with, as you said, very frugally. They're very effective in what they're trying to do. They're really communicating with each other, and the collaborations that exist here between the volunteers, between the corporations and our donors and those agencies is just amazing to watch. And I think you're right on when you say, we as a community really do come together to give, and people do really care.
Just the number of miles that Meals on Wheels puts on in a given week is probably astounding.
Yes, and one of the partner organizations of the United Way, it's something that the donor dollars are directed to. And I think you, in fact, probably reviewed that organization.
We did, yes.
This last year.
We did.
Now, I know TIMKEN has also been involved with some other efforts. I believe there's been a coat drive that has occurred the last 2 years. Can you talk a little bit about that?
We do. We have what we call the TIC committee, TIMKEN in the community. And in TIMKEN, it's kind of a 3-year hitch. When you sign up to be the loaned employee, you're the loaned employee for 1 year. Then the next year, you run the internal campaign within TIMKEN, which is what I did last year. And then the next year you get to be the chairman of the TIC committee, which is kind of our umbrella committee that handles all of our community outreach, from the United Way campaign to the coat drive to coordination of our volunteers that go over and help with the community kitchen. It's all under that same umbrella. We do typically we carve a big pumpkin for the Pumpkin Fest and everything too that is kind of tied to our United Way donation as well.
I think we are so lucky here. You talked about we're fortunate to have these agencies, but we're so lucky to have the businesses that we do that provide that amazing support for these nonprofit service agencies out there. I watched the coat drive the last couple of years because the coats will come into the United Way and then we help you disperse them to the different organizations in need of those. just beautiful, beautiful coats that people are donating, and for all age groups. It was so neat to see that people are thinking about that baby all the way to that senior citizen.
Right. One nice thing as well, through becoming involved with United Way and on allocations specifically, was it opened up new opportunities for me to donate as an individual that I wasn't aware of before. And I guess the best example I'll use is my stepdaughter actually donated MC, Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention was one of the agencies that I reviewed, and was talking to them about my wife and my stepdaughter about what they do. And my stepdaughter's got such a big heart, she wanted to donate some of her things, some of her stuffies, some of her dolls, some videos and things like that to that program, so that those children can have some nice things as well.
You know, I think that's one of the nice pieces of being a volunteer, is because you get to know these different organizations. You can think about the different ways you can help them. And, you know, giving through the United Way campaign is one way, but there's so many other ways. And I know we always have a wish list from the agencies of things they're in need of. And, you know, Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention, 100 Nights, the Keene Community Kitchen, right now they have a call out for things like shampoo and soap and, you know, just those toiletries, those day-to-day, you know, razors, things that people
Right.
need. And I think we sometimes forget that, you know, those are the basic human needs that can make people feel good about themselves, boost their ego in a time where they may really need that. And it also provides them that opportunity to look their best as they go out and apply for jobs and things. So there's, you know, her giving her stuffies. When you think about the women in the shelter, and they're most oftentimes coming into the shelter with children, those children are scared. And having something that's comforting, and or maybe something that feels more familiar, can be such a wonderful thing. So there's just so many ways to give, and it's wonderful that your daughter's able to see that and be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to convey that to her, because, like I said, she really does have a big heart, and again, that's what it's all about. You know, it comes from your heart. So.
Any last thoughts for folks out there? I want to mention one more thing about the campaign, because we do have an exciting piece that's happened with the campaign. You talked about, you know, people being able to give. We have organizations that have come forward and agreed to match up to $50,000 for any new donations coming in right now, or any additional donations. So if you were a leadership giver, and a leadership giver, by the way, is someone that gives over $500 a year. It, I think, figures out to about $10 or $11 a week is what that works out to.
I actually did figure it out. I'm paid twice a month, and it's $22 each paycheck. So,
Yeah.
like I said, once you make the commitment, you don't. It's before tax. You don't notice it.
Yep. So it's about $11 a
Yeah.
week to be a leadership giver. And, you know, a great percentage of our folks are leadership givers and make a huge, huge difference in people's lives. But, you know, people have an opportunity right now. If you can give that $1 a week even, it can be doubled right now. So you'd really be giving $2 a week. Or if you can give that $5 or $6, it would be doubled into that leadership giving. So we're thankful to the folks who've stepped up and offered that matching donation. We've currently raised, I think, about $16,000, $17,000 additional funds that are
Excellent.
being matched. We have into March to be able to do that, so we challenge you out there, if you haven't donated yet, or if you haven't volunteered, and it doesn't necessarily have to be volunteering with the United Way, but you can volunteer with our partner agencies out there directly. They are all in need of volunteers, every single one of them. I met with the Keene Senior Center the other day. They need volunteers to come in and work with folks on, you know, exercise and balance and injury prevention, really. And, you know, we have a lot of good things happening out there, a lot of volunteer opportunities. We invite you to join as a volunteer. You've heard Todd talk about the rewards that are attached to that, and those rewards are all what happens in your heart. So any final words for our group in audience as we leave tonight?
Just a reminder of my little sales pitch. It comes from here. You reach in here, but it comes from here.
And with that, we'll leave you tonight. We thank you for joining us, and we remind you to give, to volunteer, to advocate, to remember to live united.